The UConn Huskies are moving on to yet another Elite 8 after they dominated Indiana. It was a great game from the Huskies, with a lot to like but also some things to work on. But I think this W gives fans a lot of confidence about this team going into their blockbuster match against NC State in a couple of days' time. So, what do we make of today's action? I'll be breaking that down in today's video by looking at the positives and negatives from today's action for both sides, and specifically for UConn, what this game highlights for their Elite 8 matchup against NC State. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. For more women's basketball content like this, I'd love to reach 2,000 subscribers on this channel, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about UConn and Indiana. To me, this game was won by UConn in two ways: rebounding and their start to the second half. Starting with the latter, UConn broke down the floodgates to begin the third quarter, scoring 16 unanswered points to widen the game's margin to 20. And from there, even though Indiana ramped up the defensive intensity and made UConn struggle a bit more from the floor, they simply couldn't overcome such a large deficit. The players in this period that were huge were notably Paige Bueckers, Aaliyah Edwards, and Kristen Williams. I'll touch on Edwards a bit later, but for Paige and Williams, they each had arguably their best games of the season, or at the very least, one of their better games for the season. Both were aggressive, yet patient and poised with the basketball, rarely making an ill-advised pass or taking a bad shot. Particularly for Paige, after an injury scare, she found her groove in that third quarter, knocking down a big three-pointer to boost her confidence and following that up with some smooth inside drives, breaking down the Indiana defense with her quick handle. She was locked in, both defensively and offensively, and her ability to find space off the ball as well was impressive. This stuff is what we normally expect from Paige, but since her injury, she hasn't really been at this level. But now, honestly, this game felt to me like she was as close to being her old self as she has been since she returned, which was really great to see. As for Kristen Williams, she was simply unreal. Whether she was a ball handler or playing off ball, she was getting teammates involved and finding her shot to a high level, finishing the game with 15 points on 6 for 9 shooting from the field. Her sharp movements kept Indiana's defense humble. She was so difficult to contain. This action here with Aaliyah Edwards was one of my favorites for the match. The sudden change of direction to turn this action from a handoff to a backdoor cut was so intelligent of Williams. The defense didn't read it at all, and she got 2 easy points because of it. Though Williams was inefficient last game, I'm glad it didn't stop her from continuing her aggressive play in this game, because ultimately, she's proved she's a major X factor for this UConn team when she's at her best. And as I said before, when she plays aggressively like she did tonight, she is absolutely at the peak of her powers. Let's talk about the bigs now though for UConn, specifically Aaliyah Edwards and also Olivia Nelson-Ododa. They were both critical tonight to getting the Huskies that win. The duo dominated the glass, both finishing this match with over 10 rebounds, but particularly where they dominated was the offensive glass. It seemed like on every UConn miss, Edwards or Ono was right there to clean it up. Indiana's bigs just could not compete with the physicality of these two. And when Indiana did try to box out harder in that third quarter, UConn remained grounded, particularly Edwards, who was so strong under the basket, allowing them to bait multiple loose ball fouls. While UConn's offense did struggle in patches today, which I'll talk about a bit more soon, what kept them afloat and helped keep the offense ticking over each possession were these offensive rebounds. Edwards and Ododa really couldn't have played a better game today, and it shows. If they can keep this up for the rest of the tournament, UConn are going to be an incredibly difficult team to come up against. Finally, for the positives, I'll also give a couple of nods to Azzi Fudd, Nika Mule, and Favina Westbrook. Azzi Fudd got UConn's offense going early with some big-time three-pointers, as the Huskies tried to match Indiana's hot start. Azzi simply couldn't miss in that first half. She was able to space the floor a lot more because of it, and this made it easier for UConn to find inside entries because Azzi's presence needed to be accommodated for by Indiana. UConn's defense struggled early. Indiana were getting all the mid-range looks that they wanted, but as soon as Nika Mule stepped on the floor, that all changed. I mentioned this last video, but the impact of Nika is genuinely ridiculous. It's not always in the box score, but her defensive intangibles really strengthen UConn's perimeter defense to a whole new level. Favina Westbrook was also great today. I think she made a lot of good defensive reads and she hit some big time shots here and there. So I was overall really impressed with their play today. She was very impactful in her role. But those are the positives I saw from UConn's game today. Let me know down below if there's anything I missed that you liked from UConn today. But now let's take a look at an area or two that I believe UConn needs to improve if they want to beat NC State in a couple of days. One is the consistency of their offense. UConn were fantastic offensively in patches today, but also struggled majorly in other patches too. And if it wasn't for Edwards and Ono dominating the offensive rebounds to get easy second chance looks, the outcome of this game may have been a lot closer on the scoreboard. Now, I don't know if the Huskies took their foot off the gas after going up big, or if Indiana's defensive intensity ramped up. But either way, UConn really slowed down after their third quarter spurt, and I just don't think you'll get away with that against NC State. NC State are a fantastic defensive team, so every possession counts against them. Notre Dame proved that today after blowing a double-digit lead in the fourth, but that just shows that no lead is safe in this tournament. So if UConn want to continue their streak of Final Four appearances for another year, they've got to make sure the offense flows like it did in the third quarter all game long against NC State. Let's talk about Indiana now though. As though they did get blown out in the end, there were still some things that I liked. The Hughes' biggest positive today was probably how they played in the first half. To begin the game, Indiana's inside attack could not be stopped. Players like Pat Berg were just annihilating the Huskies from the mid-range, and the bigs were getting good looks inside. However, after UConn made an adjustment defensively, notably when Nika Mule came in, those kind of shots became a lot harder to come by for Indiana, and it hurt them a lot. Their possessions became a lot more rushed and pressured, I felt, leading to a lot of turnovers, and a few stiff calls from the referee put their bigs in foul trouble, which also hurt them big time. As a result of these fouls, UConn were getting whatever they wanted off the board, as players like Holmes, who were in foul trouble, weren't as willing to match the physicality from players like Edwards in fear of getting that fifth foul. Obviously, this isn't all Indiana's players' faults. You obviously don't want to foul out, but just being in that foul situation in general did hurt Indiana a whole lot down the stretch in this game. Indiana did try to fight back after going down big, which I respect the effort of because they did somewhat get back in the game. But again, I just felt like the offense wasn't clicking as it had in the first quarter, and ultimately they couldn't get back in reach of the big UConn lead. Overall though, this was a great game, particularly from UConn, and it shows their enormous championship upside. They may be looking like one of the better teams remaining in the tournament right now. Indiana had their ups for a bit, but when it came down to the little things, UConn was winning everything, and ultimately I think that decided the match today. This win from UConn now sets us up with an incredible Elite 8 matchup, one that could be a very high scoring match or a defensive grind fest, depending on how each team plays. Either way, it should be a lot of fun. UConn are getting better with every game, and the same can be said about the stars on this team. Paige Bueckers is looking more and more assertive, and Azzi Fudd is becoming a more consistent scorer with each game. The Huskies look dangerous at the moment, and to see them get tested by an equally dangerous NC State is going to be a battle the world needs to see. Let me know all your thoughts on this game down in the comments below, and be sure to let me know if I missed anything in my analysis. But again, UConn's rebounding and the elevated play of the guards on this team, like Paige Bueckers and Kristen Williams and Azzi Fudd, really made the difference in today's game. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.